We are talking while we are in Israel at the height of a very difficult war with terrorist organizations trying to basically destroy Israel. You know, on October 6, 2023, we were still treating each front separately. Now it is clear to us that they are all branches, proxies of the regime in Iran. Do you see it this way as well?
Well, you know, it's not a secret that the regime from its very inception had only one objective, and that was to export a radical ideology at the expense of his own people, and by means of proxies, bring it about in the region and beyond. This started 46 years ago. Unfortunately, the fact that the regime was not pressed from the outside world and was allowed to continue this campaign of proxy wars led to unfortunate events that the latest victim of it was again the terrorist attack on October 7th by the proxy, this time of Hamas. And of course Hezbollah has been out there for decades now antagonizing Israel, certainly as instrument of the regime's aggression abroad. And that's no secret to any of us.
Yeah, but what we do feel are winds of change in the Middle East, in Syria, in Lebanon, and even Gaza, maybe with the help of the U.S. President Trump. If we add to that the fact that the Iranian regime was attacked by Israel, and you yourself said that Iran is weaker than it has ever been, and the protests that took place on Iran's Revolution Day on February 10th in Iran, is there an opportunity here? And is now the time?
Absolutely. I think that in more than 4 decades, this regime today is at its weakest that it's ever been. And at the same time, within Iran itself, there was never a time where Iranians themselves were most ready for that change. Today they're calling for an end to this regime. A few years ago, the narrative was still within the context of reforms. Former reformers today are joining forces with us. We see more and more defections and fragmentation of the regime. What needs to happen, however, is that many countries in the Western world have to reset their policy, and rather than thinking that appeasement and negotiation is the way to go, they need to understand that the only way to solve the problem ultimately and terminally is to put an end to this regime. Why? Because unlike this regime and its DNA of antagonism, the Iranian people, unlike the regime that is a warmonger, want to be part of the equation as peacemakers. We want to be at peace with our world, with our region. Iranians have no hostility or animosity to the Jewish state, to our Israeli friends and the Jews, or for that matter the Arabs or the Saudis or anybody else. That's why when I went to Jerusalem almost 2 years ago, one of the things I mentioned to the leadership there and other Israelis was, imagine if we had an elevation of the Abraham Accords to the Cyrus Accords, which would include Iran into that equation as a viable partner. But I must say, and I'm not saying this because I'm Iranian, it's because Iran can play a key role in bringing about that balance. But which Iran are we talking about? Are we talking the Iran of the clerical regime, or Iranians as secular democrats that are sharing the very same values of this free world? This is something that President Trump in Washington needs to understand, that it's not by means of negotiation that you can expect this time a different behavior. Because until now, the Western world's policy was to expect behavior change. This regime cannot change its behavior as it cannot change its DNA. What needs to happen is a change of regime, not because the outside world says so, but because the Iranian people want so. But once the regime is gone, any existential threat to Israel, any instability in the region, any threat coming by via funding terrorism or radicalism or whatever it is, including, of course, the nuclear threat, they will all evaporate at the same time.